Hello and welcome to this edition of Cooking with Chef Express. I'm Jan Thompson Goldsmith, and today we're going to be featuring spinach pie from the Party Plates cookbook. It's a kind of a nice, it could be a side dish, you can take it as an appetizer to a party. It's kind of serves many purposes. And the ingredients aren't that difficult. There's a couple little tricks I'm going to show you, especially when it comes to making the dough. But first of all, I'll tell you what's going to be involved with cooking this and the ingredients. We have olive oil, chopped onions, garlic, eggs beaten, Parmesan cheese, feta cheese, pine nuts, frozen spinach, pastry dough with some flour to roll it out on in a greased pan, and salt and pepper to taste. First thing we'll do is saute the onions and garlic in the olive oil for just a couple of minutes until soft. Okay, I think they're looking pretty translucent and they got a nice little brown color to them. So turn the fire off and we're just going to remove them from the heat area and set aside while we mix together all the other ingredients. The first of which is 20 ounces of spinach. Now, I'm using frozen spinach because it's so much easier. You can use fresh spinach, but 20 ounces would be about 20 cups. So you have to keep filling it up and then you have to tear off all the stems. It takes a lot of time and then you have to cook it for 5 minutes just to wilt it. So instead, this is when your freezer section of your grocery store comes in handy, I think. So I'm taking the 20 ounces of frozen spinach, but the one thing you have to do with it is to get all the moisture out. I'm going to use some cheesecloth that actually was my mother's. It's probably 40 years old, but you can also use dish towels if you'd like. And you need to really squeeze it really good. So we just pile it up in here. You're probably gonna have to make a couple of runs here. And then, I mean, look, you can see how much moisture comes out of this once you squeeze it. So I got rid of all the moisture, putting in the dried up or the moisture-free spinach. And then, next we add all of the other ingredients to this. So we put in the feta cheese, Parmesan cheese, pine nuts, and 2 of the beaten eggs and mix together. You could add a little more salt and pepper. I kind of like things salty, but I will warn you, if you use feta cheese in this, the feta cheese has a lot of salt content, so just be advised of that. And if you don't like feta cheese, just increase your Parmesan cheese. You can even put ricotta cheese in here if you wanted. You can really, again, whatever you have in your refrigerator that you would like to use is fine. Okay, now that the onions have had time to cool off a little bit, we're going to add the onions and the garlic in with this. Okay, so this is going to be your filling. Lots of times when you see spinach pie, or what the Greeks call spanakopita, they use phyllo dough. And we're going to use this because it's a lot simpler. With phyllo dough, you have to put butter on each of the layers, and it's a little more time consuming, and this tastes really good and it's much simpler. Okay, we have a 1/4 cup of flour, but I'm going to take half of it and just spread it out on the clean countertop, just so that the pastry dough doesn't stick. They have been thawing for about 40 minutes. They need to be, for my pan, 10 by 14 inches. So I need to very gently roll them out. And then we gently roll it over the rolling pin, which helps keep it together when you're going to move it. So we do that and then pick it up and put it on the pan. And then that's when we go back and get all that great spinach filling that we have. And then put the spinach filling on top of it, spread it out very evenly, leaving 1 inch around, all the way around the outside, because we're going to have to crimp the 2 sheets of pastry dough together. And then we do the same thing with the second sheet of dough. And then take your fingers all the way around the outsides and crimp it. So you bring the outsides in and then just crimp it up so that you are sealing it all the way around the outside. Before we put it in the oven, which the oven has been preheating at 375, we take the extra egg that we have left and then just brush, making sure that you brush the edges really good. Okay, and then once you get all that done, you take the rest of the egg and just brush it over the top. It makes it for a really nice kind of crusty top when you take it out. The final step is we're going to make slits just on the top. Don't go all the way through to the bottom, just on the top, so that when it comes out, you'll know where to cut it. It'll make it much easier. Okay. That's the last step. Now we just put it in the oven. Ah, looks really good. Good enough to eat, good enough to serve to your guest. And the first thing we need to do is to put it on a wire rack for about 30 minutes when you take it out of the oven, because this should really be eaten room temperature or kind of warm. So in 30 minutes, it'll be a good time to cut it. And as you can see, we made the lines. So even if you served it, guests could come up, even as an appetizer, cut their own. Maybe you would make your lines a little more even than I did. I have some small ones and some big ones, but that way they can decide what size they want. But you could be more uniform than me. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today on Cooking with Chef Express. And until next time, take care. Okay, now that the onions have had time to cool off a little bit, we're going to add the onions and the garlic in with this.